Hello viewers, in my last lecture on glucose, we were discussing chemical properties of glucose, in which we have seen that glucose is a polyhydroxyaldehyde. So it is also known as aldohexose. So that means it will show us the properties of the aldehydic group as well as the alcoholic groups. And in my last lecture, we had discussed the properties due to the aldehydic group, that is, glucose can react with KCN to form, with HCN to form glucose cyanohydrin. It also undergoes oxidation with mild oxidizing agents like bromine water, Tollens reagent, Fehling's and Benedict solution to form gluconic acid. It undergoes oxidation with mild oxidizing agents because it has an aldehydic group, and this aldehydic group is oxidized to a carboxylic group, resulting in the formation of gluconic acid. Whereas if the oxidation is carried out in a if oxidation is carried out in presence of a strong oxidizing agent, then what we find that with concentrated nitric acid, both the groups, that is the aldehydic group and the primary hydroxyl group, is oxidized to carboxylic groups. And as you can see on your screens, with strong oxidizing agent like nitric acid, we get D-glucuric acid, because in this the aldehydic group as well as the primary alcoholic group is oxidized to carboxylic groups. Now next we go on to reduction. We had discussed reduction of glucose, and when we found that when reduction of glucose is carried out with a mild oxidizing agent like sodium amalgam and water, or with sodium borohydride, it is only the CHO group which is reduced. This CHO group is reduced to a CH2OH group, and we get a hydroxy derivative of glucose, that is, we get sorbitol, that is, we get glucose alcohol. So this is happening when we are using a mild oxidizing agent. If we use a strong oxidizing agent like HI and red phosphorus, then we find that all the functional groups, that is the aldehydic groups as well as the alcoholic groups, are reduced to methylene groups. That is, we will get this glucose will be converted into N-hexane and 2-iodohexane when the reaction is carried out with HI in presence of red phosphorus, and the mixture is heated to 373 Kelvin. So these are the reactions which I had already discussed in my last lecture, so therefore I have not explained them in detail today. So another important reaction which we saw was that glucose reacts with 3 molecules of phenylhydrazine to form ozazone derivative. And we know, I had also discussed that when we carry out the reaction of fructose with phenylhydrazine, it also gives the same ozazone derivative. This I shall be discussing again the mechanism when we go on to the chemical properties of fructose. Now let us discuss the properties due to the hydroxyl groups which are present in glucose. As I have already said, that glucose is a polyhydroxyaldehyde. That is, it is a aldo sugar because it has a aldehydic group, and along with an aldehydic group it has 5 hydroxyl groups. And what is the result of presence of these 5 hydroxyl groups? That this glucose molecule or sugars are very soluble in water, that is monosaccharides, which can be glucose, which can be fructose, sucrose. These are the ones which are very soluble in water, and they are insoluble in inorganic solvents. Now, what is the drawback of the high solubility of sugars in water? We find that since they are highly soluble, they form supersaturated syrups like honey and molasses. So, when they form supersaturated solutions because of intermolecular hydrogen bonding, it is very difficult to recrystallize them and purify these sugars. So, how can we now modify the reactions of these sugars so that they behave like simpler organic compounds? One way is that we can alkylate the hydroxyl groups to form ethers. So, when we convert these hydroxyl groups to ethers, we find that these sugars start behaving like normal or simpler organic compounds. And that means now these compounds, these sugar ethers will be soluble in organic solvents, and they can be purified more readily by recrystallization and simple chromatographic methods. So let us see how will we convert a sugar, that is glucose, into its ether derivative. So what we find that when a sugar is treated with methyl iodide and silver oxide, we know that the hydroxyl groups are converted to methyl ethers. As you can see on your screens, I have shown the structure of glucose with methyl iodide in presence of silver oxide, and here we are taking excess of methyl iodide because we have to convert the hydroxyl groups into methyl groups. So, and what we get as a result of this reaction, we are getting methyl 2,3,4 orthomethyl alpha D glucopyranoside. Now see, the question is, if we were looking into the open chain structure of glucose, we know that the OH on the highest numbered chiral carbon is on the right hand side. Therefore, this molecule is assigned configuration D, and we call it as alpha because what we find that this molecule is in the alpha form. We know that when we bring about cyclization of the open chain, we get two anomeric forms. One is the alpha glucopyranose and the alpha D glucopyranose, and the other one is the beta D glucopyranose. So how will we identify this is the alpha D glucopyranose? Please remember, in alpha D glucopyranose, these are on the opposite side, that this OH and OH will be on the opposite side. And why are we calling this molecule a pyranose? Because please remember, when we discuss the open chain, the closed chain structure, that is the Hayward structure of glucose, we found that the basic structure of the ring was that of the molecule pyrene, that is the hydrocarbon. So since the basic molecule structure of the in Hayward structure was that of pyrene, it is known as pyranose. Ose indicates that it is a carbohydrate. Whereas in this here I have shown the chair form of the chair conformation of glucose. That is the cyclic structure. So when it reacts with excess of methyl iodide and a silver oxide, we find that all the hydroxyl groups, including the anomeric carbon, anomeric hydroxyl group, is converted into methyl ethers. Now, how does this reaction takes place? See, the reaction here is just like if we were carrying out a normal nucleophilic substitution reaction. What happens in this reaction? That is, silver oxide will polarize methyl iodine bond, making the methyl carbon strongly electrophilic. And when it is strongly electrophilic, then this electrophilic carbon is attacked by the nucleophilic oxygen. We get intermediate, which on deprotonation will give us ether. As you can see on your screens, here we have taken a simple alcohol and we find that this simple alcohol is representing a sugar hydroxy group. As you can see on your screens, I am showing that the simple sugar is represented as sugar hydroxy molecule. So this is represented just like a norm. We have represented that we find that this is the whole of the molecule, and what we have taken here one hydroxyl group. And now, as I said, that this methyl iodide will react with silver oxide, and this will, now this iodine is attracted towards Ag, so that means it will have a positive charge. Now since it is giving its electrons to this silver, so what will happen? It will pull the electrons from Ci, from these bonds, the bond between the carbon and iodine, as a result of which this carbon will have a positive charge, that is, this carbon will be highly electrophilic in nature. So now what happens, that this lone pair of electrons on oxygen will act as a nucleophilic site, and this will form a bond here. And as a result of bond formation here, we will get a protonated ether. So in the last step, now we know that oxygen is more electronegative. So what will this oxygen do? And it has a positive charge on it, so it will pull the electrons towards itself, as a result of which this hydrogen will be eliminated off as proton, and we will get an ether. So this is what will be the general mechanism for each hydroxyl group when we are cut off the sugar molecule, when we are converting it into a ether. So this is how you are going to visualize that the reaction will take place. So again, I have shown the previous slide here that alpha D glucopyranose will react with excess of methyl iodide and silver oxide to give us methyl 2,3,4,6 tetra O methyl alpha D glucopyranoside. Right, but now the question is, when we can talk of a simple Williamson ether synthesis, and if you remember what happens in ether synthesis, we treat an alkyl halide with sodium alkoxide when we get an ether. And generally we prefer doing this reaction by SN2 mechanism, in which we carry out the alkyl halide is primary and the ether can be different. But now the question comes, like, if we are carrying out the reaction of sugars with a strong base, that is in strongly basic medium, we find that the yield of the reaction will not be high, because what happens, that sugars in basic medium undergo isomerization, that is, they undergo epimerization and enediol rearrangement to give us different isomers of the structure. That is, if we are starting with glucose, it may isomerize into mannose as well as fructose, and these sugars will also sometimes decompose in the basic medium, because what happens, these sugars are not very stable under basic medium. So that means now if we want to get a good yield, and we do not want that the hemiacetal CO bond should be broken and the configuration at the anomeric carbon should be retained, we have to carry out the reaction under controlled conditions. That is, we have to modify the reaction conditions. So we will have to use a modified Williamson's method. And what do we do in this method? We will first convert the sugar to a glycoside. How will we convert a sugar to a glycoside? We will convert a sugar to a glycoside by treating sugar molecule with alcohol in acidic medium. And what will happen as a result of this reaction, that the anomeric carbon will be involved in bond formation, and we will get an acetal, and this acetal is stable in basic conditions. Now, as you can see on your screens, I have shown that glucose, first of all, now what we are going to do is we are going to convert this glucose into methyl glucoside, that is into its acetyl derivative. So when we do that, what happens is that this glucoside is stable. That is, it will not, in basic medium, it will not undergo epimerization or enediol rearrangement. So what happens is when we treat glucose with methanol in acidic medium, we find that the anomeric OH reacts with methanol, and what we get is a methyl glycoside. Now, when we treat this methyl glycoside with sodium hydroxide and dimethyl sulfate or methyl iodide, we get a methylated carbohydrate. So what have we done here? See, we have now first carried out the reaction with methanol in acidic medium. When we are carrying out the reaction, which I have already shown in my previous slide, with methanol in acidic medium, this anomeric OH is the anomeric OH, the anomeric O. How will you recognize which is the anomeric carbon or which is the anomeric OH in this structure? Then you have to remember that the carbon which is attached to two oxygens is the anomeric carbon. So we find that it is only this carbon which is attached to two oxygens. So hence this is an anomeric carbon. So when we carry out the reaction of glucose with methyl iodide with methyl alcohol in acidic medium, esterification takes place and we get a acetyl group here, that is COOCH3 group. Now when this is treated with dimethyl sulfate, what we find that all the OH here, that is this H will be eliminated from here and we will introduce a CH3 group. So all the hydrogens of the alcohol will be replaced with methyl groups when we will get a ether. So this is how the reaction takes place. And you have to remember, when we are saying that the anomeric carbon will be preserved, that means if we start with alpha D-glucopyranoside, we will get only the alpha ether, that is the alpha isomer, and if we will start with the beta, then we will get the beta product, that is there will be no mixing of the products because this molecule will not undergo ring opening in the acidic medium. In the ring opening in the basic medium, after we have protected the anomeric OH group. Now the next way in which we can convert sugars and we can into some derivatives and can handle them easily is to convert the hydroxy groups to form esters. Again, why are we carrying out? We are converting them into ester derivatives. The reason being that these ester derivatives can again be crystallized and purified readily, and they will dissolve in common organic solvents. So what we find that when we treat a glucose molecule with acetic anhydride and pyridine, here pyridine is a mild basic catalyst. That is, we are not using sodium hydroxide here, because if you remember, we will use sodium hydroxide in this case. It will bring about, it will again the molecule of glucose would undergo isomerization, that is epimerization and enediol rearrangement. So what we are using here is a mild basic medium, mild catalyst, which is pyridine. So when we carry out the reaction of sugar with acetic anhydride and pyridine, the hydroxyl groups are converted to acetate groups and we get a pentaacetate. And in this reaction, when we carry out this reaction, the acetylation is carried out at all hydroxyl groups, including that of hemiacetal alcoholic group which is present on the anomeric carbon. You know, why are we calling this as a hemiacetal? This I had done with you in the previous class, that when an aldehyde reacts with an alcohol, it gives us a hemiacetal. So in this case also what we find that in aldehydic, in glucose, we have 5 hydroxyl groups and an aldehydic group. So in this case, the hydroxyl group on the 5th carbon reacts with the aldehydic carbonyl group of the aldehydic group at the 1st carbon, resulting in a hemiacetal structure. So we call that carbon as a hemiacetal carbon. So now what we find that when we are carrying out acetylation of glucose, the anomeric CO, that is the bond at the anomeric carbon and the oxygen, is not broken. And when it is not broken, then what we find that the stereochemistry of the anomeric carbon atom is usually retained. That is, if we are starting with an alpha anomer, the product will also be an alpha compound. And if we are starting with a beta anomer, the product will be a beta compound. So that means if we are starting with a pure alpha anomer or a pure beta anomer, it will give us the corresponding anomer of the acetate as a product. So here again on your screens, you can see the general reaction between a sugar molecule. That again, the sugar molecule has been represented, that this is the entire molecule with one of the OH here. It reacts with acetic anhydride. So when it reacts with acetic anhydride, the reaction will be the acyl nucleophilic acyl substitution. So what happens in this case again? What we find in acetic anhydride, the carbon is attached to more electronegative oxygen. And since oxygen is more electronegative than carbon, it will pull the electrons towards itself, as a result of which this carbon will become electrophilic in nature, right? That is, it will have a positive charge. And now we know that this oxygen hydroxyl group of the sugar has a the oxygen of the hydroxyl group has a lone pair of electrons on it. So these will now act as nucleophiles and they will attack this carbonyl carbon, resulting in a tetrahedral intermediate. So what is happening first here? The substitution is, that is, it is forming a bond with this carbon. That is, addition is taking place. Now in the next step, elimination takes place. Therefore we call this reaction as nucleophilic acyl substitution. Now what happens? Now resonance takes place here. These oxygen will come back and make the lone pair of electrons on oxygen will make a double bond between an carbon and oxygen, and we know that the carbon cannot have 5 valencies, that it cannot form 5 bonds. So this oxygen is also more electronegative than carbon. So this oxygen, since it is more electronegative than carbon here, so what will it do? It will pull these electrons towards this self, that is the bonding pair of electrons, and it will depart as an acetate ion. And when it happens, these lone pair of electrons of the oxygen will move towards this carbon, resulting in the formation of double bond here. So we get a intermediate here. Now what happens? That this is a protonated intermediate. The acetate ion which is being removed here will act as a base here, and it removes a proton. And when it removes a proton from here, because it has a tendency of removing this proton, because this proton is now acidic in nature, since oxygen has a positive charge on it, and we know oxygen is an electronegative atom, it has a tendency to pull these electrons, the bonding pair of electrons, as a result of which the bond between this oxygen and hydrogen is weakened, and this picks up a proton from here, resulting in the formation of acetate ester. Along with it, we get acetic acid. So what we find that when we carry out the reaction of glucose, that is the cyclic form of glucose, with and this is the alpha ionomer. How will you remember which is an alpha ionomer? If the OH, please remember, is on the right hand side, or if the OH is inside the ring, we say it is the alpha ionomer. If this OH was on this side, we would have said that this is the beta compound. This reacts with 5 molecules of acetic anhydride, converting into a pentaacetyl derivative. Similarly, we find that fructose also can react with 5 molecules of acetic anhydride, and what we'll get here is, we will again get here penta-O-acetyl beta D-fructofuranoside. Why do we name this and how do we name this? This I shall be discussing in my next lecture. Now, if we talk of the last 2 reactions of glucose, what we find that glucose can also react with metallic hydroxides like calcium hydroxide, and it forms calcium glucosate, and this calcium glucosate is soluble in water. And if we were carrying out the reaction with fructose, fructose would also have given us glucosate, but that would have been insoluble in water, and this reaction will be used for the separation of glucose and fructose when we carry out the hydrolysis of sucrose to prepare the mixture of glucose and fructose. Now, the last reaction which is of interest is that glucose can undergo fermentation into ethyl alcohol in presence of enzyme zymase. And when we carry out the fermentation of glucose with enzyme zymase, we get ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide, and this reaction is known as alcoholic fermentation, and this is the basis for preparation of wines and alcohols. Now, in nowadays, what we find that we need lots and lots of alcohol. Alcohol is not only being used for wines and alcohols, it is also being used as a bioethanol, as a substitute for petrol in vehicles. And for that, Mr. Gadkari and our Prime Minister PM Modi has set a target that in very near future we will be using 10% of alcohol in our vehicles, which will be blended with petrol. So this reaction is very, very important, and for this we've started using alternate substrate like cellulosic biomasses to prepare ethanol. Thank you.